Life is not about heartbreak or hunger or need. It's not about sacrifice that leaves us to bleed. There's something more important that we're born to know. 'Cause whatever we do and wherever we go, it's all about love. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it up. It's all about love.
Good morning. What a wonderful way to start the day, speaking about love. Today is Father's Day, and we here at Unity Church of El Cajon welcome all of you, and welcome you that have fathers, those of you who perhaps have had them pass on but still share that love with them. We ask you to be with us as we later on will hear Reverend Blair Tabor speak to us more about love and the love that comes from our Father. In the meantime, let's just close our eyes and know that that love is within us and that we share it and express the love that we are and that we have, that God has given us and expresses through us, and we share with others today.
Love is the miracle of a newborn child. And love is that someone that makes your heart go wild. But however you feel it, it's all the same thing. It's the feeling within you that makes you want to sing. It's all about love. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it up. It's all about love. When your world is overflowing with pain, when you don't remember a sky without the rain, just hold on, help is on the way, bringing a perfect new world, a bright, bright new day. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it up. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it up. It's all about love.
Father's blessings. I give thanks for all expressions of fatherly love.
My relationship with my father may have been positive and nurturing, or difficult and challenging. He may have been a strong presence during my childhood, or he may have been absent.
We may be part of each other's lives today. We may be estranged, or he may be have passed. We may be part of each other's lives today. We may have been estranged, or he may have passed from this earthly life. However our circumstances, I bless my Father, and I see him enfolded in divine love.
As I honor my father, I also honor all the father figures who have helped guide me along my path.
Family members, teachers, neighbors, clergy, employers, and friends, I bless them, as I recall all the ways each one, in a unique way, has molded strength, guidance, wisdom, and patience.
Their presence remains with me, thanks to their gifts of fatherly love. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the paths of uprightness. Proverbs.
Good morning. My name is Linda Burdett, and I would ask you to join me in meditation. Settle back and get comfortable. Become aware of your breathing as it moves through your body. Take a breath. In gratitude. Today is a day when we honor the father figures around us. Let's breathe in that gratitude. Let's breathe out love, creating more love in this world with every breath. Breathing deeply, so aware of who we are and all that we are connected to. Let it be love. Let it be loving. As we reach deeper into this place of relaxation, as we bring forth a deeper awareness of love, of all that is, let anything that comes up that isn't loving fall away. It doesn't belong. It's not for us. Not today. In this light, we hold peace. In this heart, we hold love. As you move forward into the day, I invite you to carry this sense of love with you. As you open your eyes, as you stretch, as you move, know that you are an expression of God, that God lives in you and moves through you. And so it is. And now I invite you to join me in a moment of prayer. Dear God, we are so grateful to be here together, to have this time that we can keep, that we can share, that we can watch and rewatch and visit and revisit and know that we are always connected and you are always here. God, we rejoice in the knowing that you are Father God to all of us. And so it is. Amen.
So on this Father's Day, I thought I'd talk about the Father's love, God's love. Now, many times we talk about God as Father, Mother, but today, because it is Father's Day, I thought I'd talk about the Father's love. I remember years ago when I was at the Unity Church in Merced, and I was going to be gone on Father's Day, as I was many times, because the Unity Convention is always over around that weekend. So someone on the board suggested that we have the Youth of Unity do the Father's Day lesson. Everybody thought that was a great idea. So after I came back from the convention, I asked, how did the service go? And everybody said, well, it did not go really well. And as we talked about it, what we realized is that none of these teenagers had a father in the house. None of them knew a father's love in a real helpful and productive way. And what I see is that all of us, in some sense, don't really know God's love in the deepest and most powerful way. And so I want to talk about how to experience that Father's love and how to really be an instrument of that love for ourselves. We perceive God's love through a filter of the way that we experience love from our parents, from our mothers and our fathers. And sometimes that was limited. Sometimes we had great experiences with our fathers and mothers, but sometimes we had limited experiences. And so that filter is there. And usually what happens is that we duplicate our sense of love that we receive from our parents as we become parents and in the way we do our lives. And I remember when my boys were young and they were playing in the living room, and all of a sudden I had this idea in my mind that there was this rule that I had to enforce, that there were no toys in the living room. And I realized that was my father's rule, and I was just duplicating what he had done. And so recognizing that if we're not conscious, what we do is we bring the limitations of our past experiences. We bring the limitations of artificial structures that don't help us and don't help others as well, and leads to judging others as less than, sometimes judging ourselves as less than, and we judge that they're not wise and they're not human enough, they're not worthy of God's love. And so it's important for us to recognize that there's something more than those lower vibrational feelings from that experience. Because what those lead to are a sense of uncertainty, a sense of fear, a sense of lack, and move us into the mob mentality that we've seen some recently, because we're not conscious of something more. And people get treated unevenly, even meanly, even are killed. And that certainly is not helpful for any of us. Jesus invites us to look at God's love in a deeper way. And this is from Matthew chapter 7, starting with verse 9. He says, "Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, gives them a stone?" And that may not make sense to us, but if you think about how bread is traditionally made in a round loaf, it looks like a big stone. And then he goes on, he says, or if a child asks for a fish, would give him a snake. So he's sort of hyperbolizing here and recognizing that, if a child asks for something, if our child asks us for something, we're going to give them something. So he goes on to say, if you then who are evil, and we have to be careful when we hear that word evil, because in the Aramaic language, the word that's translated into English as evil really means unripe. So what he's saying, those of us who haven't quite grown up into the fullness of knowing and expressing love, if we know how to give good gifts to our children, how much more will our Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? And so he's saying, he's not just talking about getting stuff, he's talking about experiencing God's love in a deeper and powerful way and opening ourselves to that in a greater and greater way. And here's how this finishes here. In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. So he's saying all the things that are taught in the Mosaic law, all the things that are taught in the prophets really are about this one point, that if you want something good, then you need to do something good for other. And he's saying this is an expression of that love of God, which is unconditional, which has no limits, which has no things that if you get good grades, then I'll love you. That love of God is open and full. So I want to take us into experience of this Father's love, and my acronym for today is KIT, K-I-T. So a KIT that you can always take with you here. So the K stands for know the Father's love. So instead of imposing a sense of limited love on ourselves and others, We want to see that there is this universal, unconditional love of God that's available to us. And we have to think through that in our minds, because it's not what we see in the world all the time. And so we have to recognize that even though we may not see it, doesn't mean it's not there. Just like we don't see the air, but we know that it's there all the time. We don't see gravity, but it's there all the time. And so this love of God is with us, and we need to move into a deeper sense of that. Jesus, in order to experience that and express it, used the name Abba for God. And Abba is usually translated as Father, sometimes translated as Daddy, a more familiar term for God. But I talked with someone who grew up speaking the Aramaic language, and what he said was that my mother used to call me Abba, and I would call her Abba. In general usage, the word means beloved. And so Jesus' experience of God was God as the beloved. God as the beloved. And so if we think about God as a lover, someone who loves us and someone that we can love with his deepest sense in our own lives, it changes the way that we think about what God's love is and how we can experience that. And so I like to take that word love, because in English, that word gets a lot of things attached to it. And think of the word grace. Grace. And I like to think of grace this way, that just as the law of aerodynamics supersedes the law of gravity. If you operate with the law of aerodynamics, it doesn't make gravity go away, but you're operating at a different level. That when we operate with grace, it supersedes the law of cause and effect. And so stuff that we've done that we're not proud of, that we're not happy with, that we wish we could have done different, grace helps us move in a different way with that. And so begin to think of grace as greater than our limitations, our mistakes, our sins, if we want to use that word. And we're invited into knowing this God's love in a deeper way. So that's the first part of our journey, is to really think about God's love. So KIT, K-I-T, the I stands for immerse, to immerse ourselves in the Father's love. And I love this Bible verse. It comes from Psalm 34:8. It says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Now, we don't usually think about taste in a spiritual sense, but the psalmist is really inviting us to have this sense of savoring, that sense of the presence of God, as if we could taste it. And the taste is delicious. So if we could have the sense that God's love is delicious, and to immerse ourselves in a deeper way. So some simple words we can use for that. I am God's love. I am God's love. So I invite you now, just close your eyes for a moment, and to think of these words, to speak these words. Let me adjust this here. I am God's love. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, God's love. I am God's love. I am God's love. And if you take a few moments, a few minutes, even maybe 10, 15 minutes if you're a more practiced meditator, and just immerse yourself in that sense of being a part of God's love right where you are, and visualize your heart melting into that divine love, that infinite love of God. Remember, those of us who are older remember this old desert water bags that said saturate before using. And so before we go operating in the world, it's good to saturate ourselves in God's love and make sure that we have that sense. So know God's love, know Father's love, immerse yourself in the Father's love. Then the T for KIT is translate the Father's love into action. We want to change the world. There's a lot of changes that need to happen. We see that. But in order for us to move from a sense of comfort or complacency into a sense of call, we want to make sure that we're conscious that we can do that, we can make that change. I like Duke Ellington said, I merely took the energy it takes to pout and wrote some blues. So he took the difficulties in life and changed it into some creative expression in our lives. And so we want to do that ourselves. There's a phrase that's called to choose the high watch. And so the high watch is to, again, not just know that love of God, not just to immerse ourselves in that love of God, but to translate that into the way that we live our lives. Because every moment God is present, and that presence needs to be presented to others as well. And even if they're not receptive, that's okay. You're called to deliver. You can't determine whether or not they're going to receive, but you can do that. And if we think about fear in this way, because the actions of limitation, of destruction, really come out of fear, that fear is really looking for love. It's looking for assurance. It's looking for acknowledgement and acceptance, and love will help do that. And so as you're dealing with others, you can imagine their hearts melting into this love of God as well. And to think of these words where we're saying, I am God's love, to say, I am God's love in action. I'm going to take this love and I'm going to move it into action through the way that I do that. And there's all kinds of ways. There's no prescribed way. Each of us has to see what the call is for ourselves. One teenage boy just got a trash bag and went out and started picking up trash. That makes a difference. What you're called to do may be different. So one of the things that I like to do when I have somebody in my face that's not happy with some perceived thing that I've done or maybe didn't do, I like to take my hands and make them into a heart shape. And I'll just stand and I'll point that heart shape at them. And so I just let them talk. And what I found many times that by the time I let them talk, they figure out it wasn't about me at all. It really was about something that wasn't working for them and that they need to do something different. That this just helps me hold a space of saying, I'm going to be a space of love. And this isn't about me. This is about love. This is about love being the largest embrace that I can think of, that I can feel for myself in life. And so as we're practicing this, then any act of cruelty that we see or hear about, first place ourselves consciously in that love of God, place others in that love of God, and then ask for guidance about what's ours to do. Because sometimes it's important to speak, sometimes it's important to listen. Sometimes it's important to act, sometimes it's important to wait. And moment by moment, if we're just caught up in the fear and limitation, we're not going to know which the highest is to do. So as we take time to listen to that presence of God and know that love, it can shift everything. So I came up with this. It says, it's time not to tolerate, but on God's love to contemplate and meditate. Our thoughts we elevate so we can incubate and formulate new ways to circulate God's love and peacefully demonstrate. We communicate with all, and for the good of all, we advocate. Motivate ourselves and others to find a way to stimulate good and legislate and allocate resources so our human race can graduate to new ways to celebrate. So this is about God's love, the Father's love. To know that it is there and to know that we need to explore it consciously, to meditate on it, and then to take time to really immerse ourselves in that love, to feel that we're saturated with that love, we're filled with it. I always like to think of it this way, when life squeezes us, what comes out is what's in our consciousness. Just like if you have a sponge and if you have some white liquid and you squeeze, white liquid's going to come out. If you have green liquid in there, green liquid would come out. So if life squeezes you and hate comes out, that's because you've been filled with hate. If life squeezes you and fear comes out, that's because you've been filled with fear. But if you've immersed yourself in God's love, when life squeezes you, what comes out is love. So we want to make sure that we're taking time for that in life. We want to see that in an inner way and an outer way, we want to be instruments of God's love. Edwin Markham wrote this short little piece called Outwitted, talking about someone that was a challenge in his life. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. So that larger circle is the circle of love that we have for ourselves. And we find ourselves in that when we know God's love, immerse ourselves in God's love, and translate God's love into action. The Father's love wants a world unfolding blessings for all. God bless you, and may you know and experience and share the Father's love.
I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I want to play in the symphony of sacred love. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I want to play in the symphony of sacred love. And never again will I wander, and never again will I doubt. Suddenly I can see clearly that love is what this life is about, yeah. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I want to play in the symphony of sacred love. And never again will I wander, never again will I doubt. Suddenly I can see clearly that love is what this life is about, yeah. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I am an instrument of the divine. I want to play in the symphony of sacred love. I want to play in the symphony of sacred love. I want to play in the symphony of sacred love.
Those of you that may need prayers, Silent Unity offers support, usually 24/7. They are on a little bit more limited service at this point, from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. But do contact them at 800-669-7729. They love to pray with you. And of course, if you want more prayer, please contact our church, because our church chaplains would love to be praying with you. The number here is 619-579-9586. We thank you for your continued support, and so you can continue to send your tithes and offerings to Unity Church of El Cajon. Of course, we're still accepting checks. You can go online and use our app that has a donate button to it, or you can call it in. We can take your credit card number over the phone. We're happy to do that. And so thank you for that continued help in keeping our church moving forward and being able to provide all of these wonderful daily blessings in the church services. Stay connected to us so that you know more of what is going on. We have so many things that are playing to you online these days. But we do need your email address or a mailing address so that we can send you our weekly newsletter. Again, the office number is 619-579-9586. On Zoom, if those of you that are using Zoom, and I think we've all gotten kind of caught up in it a little bit, we have our Sunday gathering at 10 a.m., and then Wednesday there's the Chaplain's Corner at 1 p.m., Thursday's study group at 4:30, Trusting the Process of Change. And I think that's all the announcements I have for you this morning. Jody, would you end with our song, please?
Absolutely. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator we all are weak. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And won't you please join me in the prayer for protection? The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I am divine. Amen.